Well, hi, gang. I thought I would take that opportunity to grab a slice of the Saturday live stream bonanza that goes on Saturdays to before all the real vloggers and bloggers get going. I thought I'd take a slice of time here just to have a chat about expectations of quality in wargaming. I've been thinking about it a little bit because of the stuff that went on with Phalanx, that sort of minus Storm in a Teacup, and then some other games I've got going here, and my past experiences with quality of print job and all the rest of it. And I'm curious to see what everybody else thinks and what everyone else's expectations are, and how we could perhaps, is there a way that we can come up with a framework to make, informed decisions as opposed to emotional decisions about what we expect or don't expect, and what's acceptable and what's not acceptable in wargame publishing. So for some examples, right? There's my phone. Damn it. But I'm going to let that go. What was I going to say? So way back in the day, we had, and by the way, if you're joining in, say hi. It'd be nice just to know who's here. Back in the day, SBI, right? We would often receive a magazine game or even a box game that had offset counters, and it was a challenge, and you would write a letter. And now I didn't get to do this, but I know that folks have done that, because in Australia, when you got crappy counters, you're like, oh, okay. And you threw it in the trash, basically, because it was probably no good, or you just played with it as it was and accepted that's what it was. Mr. Dickerson, good to see you, sir. And Stig, what's going on? Stephen, hello. So that was one level of expectation where you really didn't have a lot of recourse, and so there's a stake in the ground there, I guess, right? And then if we fast forward, we go through the dark ages of wargaming, and I guess we get to the 80s. Really, if we fast forward, we get to the 80s, and then we see that printers had discovered that there were more than three colors: white, brown, and green, and they started out with their fabulous explosive palettes that were pretty and often excessive, right? And that's not a quality issue. That's just a bad taste issue. And I think MMP was one of the ones that I've noticed the most when I look at their older games, particularly some of the Napoleonic stuff with the, really harsh shades of colors, or stark shades of colors, that it was kind of like, whoa, what the hell's going on here? Wardrobe, what's going on, man? Todd, John, Haro, good to see you guys. Guten Tag, wie geht's, Haro? And John, good to see you. And Mr. Dixon, yeah. So there's that. And then, if we sort of skip forward again to today, the 90s and the 2000s, and geez, it's 2020s, right? So I feel like we have higher expectations of quality. And when I talk about quality, what do I mean? I mean, are the counters done right? Are the maps done and in such a manner that, well, first of all, they're accurate, and then secondly, that they are going to be durable, and that the rule books, as right as can be, and the box art and all that sort of stuff. It's kind of a package deal when I talk about quality. And I think one of the things that I'm most excited about in this age, I'm not going to use the word golden age because it'll start a huge argument in the chat. But I think one of the things I'm most excited about in this period of time with our gaming is that we have so many choices from so many micro publishers and some larger publishers, that and there's a broad spectrum of quality that comes from all of those. Hello, Mr. Bird. It's hard to judge what's good or what's bad, because we always need to kind of put it in the context of who is the publisher, how much am I paying, how much can I afford to pay, right? So I know that some of you guys might be extremely wealthy and you don't care. You buy any old game, and doesn't matter, it's got a few hacked up counters. You might send a note and get some replacements, or you might not care. Or you might be someone who budgets, and when they buy a game and it's not what they expected, then they're upset, disappointed, and angry. And that is where we see a lot of the flame wars that go on, where folks take to the internet first, rather than dealing with the publisher and all that sort of stuff. So I my job when I look at it from two perspectives. I look at it, A, how does this impact me if it's the game I've purchased and I have an issue with it? I'm going to talk about it online and I'm going to make you guys aware of it because that's kind of, I look at that as part of my job as a blogger, writer, video guy, to let you know, look, here's what I think, and have a look and see what you think. And I'm pretty plain spoken about that sort of stuff. Probably to my detriment, but shit happens, and that's okay. But then the other side of it is, as someone who's going to do this, public stuff, I'm a big advocate for all the micro publishers and all the smaller publishers, but I'm also we want to be fans of them and support them, but we want to encourage them to get it right or to do better. And we certainly have higher expectations of the GMTs and the Compasses and the MMPs of the world and the Phalanxes of the world. We have higher expectations, I think, particularly at some of the price points, right? So I'm an advocate for the smaller guys. I want the bigger guys to do the best they can, which they generally do. And if you do screw up, I'm going to talk about it and mention it, and you ought to be held accountable. I think that's all part of life, right? As opposed to, I had a lot of comments on when I posted the stuff about Phalanx about, oh, well, it's not a big deal and it's perfectly playable. It doesn't affect play. It's like, well, that's not really the point, man. The point is, if you're Phalanx and you're significant and you're a big Euro game publisher, I expect for my 65, 55 euros or whatever it was, I would expect the game to be as right as possible. So, all right. So that's kind of where I'm coming from with this. And I'm going to now dig into the comments, which looks like we've got quite a few. So I may have to catch up a little bit. So bear with me as I do that. And note that there's also 15 to 20 second lag when we're looking at these things. So it's getting ready. So here's the interesting comment. So sounds like standards of design. Unfortunately, this is really difficult to define as each printing house has their own independent approaches. Yeah, so really good point, right? One of the things I noticed the other day was that often some of the production houses, some of the publishers who use US-based production houses, the quality and the standards and the quality are just not up to snuff anymore in the US. They just don't have the skill sets necessarily or the experience. All those guys that were printing for Avalon Hill and Victory Games and SBI and GDW all back in the day before it all went to China seem to have all disappeared or retired or died. I don't know what the story is, but and when you go to China, you open yourself up to a broad spectrum of quality and cost and time and your reliability and all the rest of it. And it's almost, I guess there's probably 2 or 3 key printers that do a lot of the board games and war games and Euro games. And some are better than others. So that's just kind of a little bit of a hit and miss. And I don't know, I've been told some of the names of some of the published manufacturers or printers that the larger firms use. I forget who they are now because I don't really care. All I care is that my game comes right. But I think that's an interesting point here, John, that we need to have some sort of, oops, I clicked that, some sort of standards of design. And this is really more for me. It's like, what should I be annoyed about or concerned about or thoughtful about? And how should I go about solving that problem? I go about solving problems one-on-one with the publisher, and then I will go and talk about it online because that's kind of like a dual role for me, right? I got my own personal investment in the game, and then I've also got community-based investment where I think, hey, look, if I know a lot of guys that they're on really tight budgets for games and they want to buy them, and they send me a PM, hey, should I get this? Well, I'm going to tell them no if it's crap production, or yes if it's great production. Or maybe it's no, it's great production and a shitty game, or yes, get it anyway, because even though the counters suck or the rule book sucks, it's worth putting the effort in. So shit like that happens, right? Right. Alan, this is a really good point, Stig. So when it comes to quality of maps, back in the days with Simonson, he was the master of 3 colors and clean, elegant design. I think we've moved on from that. We're getting more towards photorealistic and more artistic and hand-drawn maps from the Barber days. Unfortunately, he's gone, but I certainly prefer those, generally speaking, than most of the SBI maps in the past. I found them to be wanting in detail and wanting in thematic immersion. So that's a good point, Steve, though. Oh, look at Todd. Todd's lifting the game. Is anyone going to say that Diamond Age? I don't know, man. I have no money, but I got a lot of time, so that's why I'm playing games up in the hills right now. It's all good. Let's see. Mapping perspective, there are cartographic standards. So to some degree, the mapping should loosely follow this. But when we consider what these games try to convey, yeah. So the graphic communication is really something that's interesting. And one of the first maps that I saw that really captured my attention, where the map became more than just the place where the units were situated and functioned on the map. And it was one of the Vento Nuovo games. It was highly colorful and a little bit garish, right, in the end, right? But so different because there was so much information on the map that formed part of the informed your actions. Hey buddy, what do you want? Informed part of your actions that you didn't have to have as many information counters or blocks on the map, and that was super cool. I really appreciated that. And there are other games that do that same sort of thing as well, whether it's tracks on the map or, circles on cities that have information on them and resources and stuff like that. So I think that's pretty cool. I'm just going through these as fast as I can here. Oh, Mr. Dickerson, you and your anti-clipping stuff. I'm going to boot you from this conversation. What do we got here? Yeah, and John, I'm going to net this out to say that you're right here. That customer experience is everything, and so the customer experience is one thing, and the user experience, the way we use the game to play the game, I think that's pretty important too. Is the map accessible? Does the map are the tables on the map oriented the right way? Are the hex numbers oriented the right way? All those little things that people now I think we pay a lot more attention to. In the past, when with bulk production like SBI and Avalon Hill, where it's just like, okay, here's our standard. It's always this way. That terrain's always white. This is always green. This is always brown. And railroads are this way and roads are that way. And it never changes. And you count your hexes from left to right. And you go from the bottom to the top, or the top to the bottom. And north is always in a certain spot. Now I think we have a lot more thoughtful approaches to cartography and map layout. Hang on a second. Will you just go on, get. I think there's a lot more to our games now that has potential to introduce a lot more errors as well. So that can really be a big issue if you are trying to be more enriching the user player experience. Then so it's PX, right? And a UX, it's PX. So at the player experience, if you're trying to enrich the player experience by developing better maps or larger hexes or more information on the map or cleverer ways of deploying information to the player, you got to be careful because all that introduces potential for errors, right? So that's one of the challenges. It's interesting. Hey, Gordon, good to see you here. Fort Hood. Now they have a big sand table there for running armored battles. That'd be cool to see one day. Let's see. What's it? Stuka Joe. Here he comes. We got some players here today. Stuka, man, the myth, the legend. He is saying that What is he saying? Come out so quickly, many times artwork is way ahead than the game in its development. That's very true. Yeah. So, we'll see volume. Look, but here's the flip side of that, though, Joe. We see games like some of the OCS titles that have been in development for 8 or 10 years, and they still come out with errata and issues and errors and problems on the map. And sometimes there's counter things. There's always counter stuff. When you've got 2 or 3,000 counters in a game, you're going to have issues. And MMP's been great with in subsequent volumes. You'll be able to get those corrected counters, or they'll send you corrected counters I've seen them do that in the past as well. So there is a large volume of games coming out, that's for sure. And I've started to veer away from 90% of all the magazine games. I am finding them a rare good game to be found in a magazine game these days, because they are literally slapdash. And I would probably say that DG's games are by far and away some of the worst games I've played more recently. And it's been disappointing in the quality of the rule writing, the quality of the gameplay. The map and the counters are always very sexy, and the cover art on the magazine is always very sexy and kind of sucks you in. But there's not a lot of meat on that bone when we do get to play. We seem to be digging in on map art here, so I do want to broaden the conversation around, quality of print, right? It was interesting when I saw the Phalanx issue with those weirdly jagged counters that, arguably are not that bad, but if you want to be aware of it, so that's why I posted about it. But and thanks to Mo actually for bringing that to my attention. I think today we expect perfect counters, and I've had a number of experiences just recently. When you see my videos on the Korean War, I've gone round and round with Compass on this, and it's not Compass. It's now not Compass's fault that I'm playing with what I would call a pretty shoddy set of counters. It's my fault because I just can't be bothered going to the next level of requesting something again. So I'm just gonna be happy with it, and it is what it is. The game's great. The gameplay's great. It's not taking me out of the game with the quality of the counters or the fact that they're reverse printed. So I'm still able to manage that. But it's something you want to be aware of, and something I have made people aware of, that, hey, if you're going to buy the game, take the shrink off, check it, make sure your counters are right, and make sure if you get the replacements, you get a certain type. Not the thick ones, get the thin ones, that type of thing. Yeah, Todd, that's a good comment about realism, theme, immersion. I would probably lean more towards I want things to be accurate, whether it's historically or cartographically, but I also want it to be immersive, right? I think a theme is really, really important. That's one of the things that's so jagged to me with ASL. ASL is not an immersive game to me. It feels very kind of clip artish, if I was going to say that. Now, I'm not talking about the historical modules. I'm really referring more to the kind of generic geomorphic maps and stuff like that. Let's see. What else we got here? Well, you boys are just getting after it. I need to get caught up. Hang on a second. Yeah, Alan, this is an interesting comment here. Oh, I think I missed it. That's not the one. That's not the comment I wanted. But let's have a look, see what this is. So, Alan is saying that if you ever, I don't know that errata has lessened from the 70s until now, but if you ever have taken part in actual production and design process of a game, you quickly understand how these seemingly obvious errors can happen. Absolutely. Look, I can't write a blog post without leaving either grammar errors or spelling errors or using the wrong word because of autocorrect. So I 100% get it. I was just reading an article that I wrote a long time ago the other day, and I recall proofing it. It's riddled with errors. It's terrible. So I completely understand. And I'm not so fussed about rules errata these days because we have the internet and we can print a rule book at our own cost, I guess, or we can use a digital reader these days. So it's not as big a deal if errata arises. Uh, Certainly a much bigger deal from the publisher and the designer if the map is wrong or the counters are wrong or the charts are wrong or that type of thing. That can be an issue. I recall what was the it was one of the was it BCS or SCS? One of the two titles that came out from MMP, and they just foobarred the charts in there. They either got them around the wrong way or missed them or didn't print them or something like that, and they just said, "Hey, here's a PDF, download it." I'm mostly okay with that. I probably would have preferred to have had it on stock and had it on a chart. It's not my job to go to Kinko's and get it printed out on 30 weight paper or whatever. It's their job to get it right and send me a new one. But you gotta do what you can with the margins that they have, and I think people have been told for so long that there's no money in wargaming or wargame publishing or board game publishing in general, that they believe that it's an imposition for them to ask for corrections and fixes and sending out stuff. And I'll tell you, just having seen enough behind the curtain or under the skirt, as they might say, that there's enough money in the game publishing industry to make a living and to run a business. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it. I understand there's hobbyists who publish one-offs or two-offs or have small series or whatever, or do print-on-demand stuff. I totally get that, and their margins are much, much lower. They're not at the GMT, MMP, Legion game scale by any means. Let's see. Hey Jay, Stu, that's a good point. Yeah, right. I mean, we're all game developers, right? A lot of the time, we're game developers and designers, as we fix and mix and match pieces and charts and go, oh no, I think this is what he really meant, and build a game. There's some really cool game platforms out there that beg to be further developed and enriched. And I think SCS is one of those where you can take It Never Snows, take all the wonderfully historically accurate order of battle and the game counters and the factors for the game counters and stuff like that, and the beautiful maps and all the rest of it, and just make your own market garden game with your own rules, because it lends itself to that because of its simple nature. You could build on that framework. I think that's pretty cool. Magazine games, they can be handful though. My friend, the military board gamer, I am talking both actually. So, and this is a good point, Keith. Yes, you've got to kind of take the good with the bad, right? If you don't have a lot of space, then you're SOL, and you got to work with what you got, and you take the games, and hopefully you'll find a review or commentary, or if you have plenty of disposable income, and you can drop $30-$40 for a magazine game, and it's a one mapper, and it got 75 counters, 100 counters, 200 counters, and that works for you, then that's awesome. My phone's ringing again. I bet you it's my wife, probably wanting to know when I'm going to come back from this glorious weather, and the answer is not soon. Let's see what else we got here. I'm just looking at comments here. I'm trying to find something I can put up that'll fit. Comfortable setting replacement creating. Yeah, Keith, you're absolutely right. And I wasn't going to get into the story, but I sent Bill a note and said, hey, my one counter sheet, had the offset stuff, and he very kindly sent me that counter sheet as replacement. And then when I actually sat down to start punching the game, I realized, oh my gosh, the other two, the backs of the other two counter sheets are all foobarred as well. So I sent him another note. I said, hey, look, I hate to be a pest, but the rest of the counters are screwed up as well. Could you send me a full set, please? And he did. But they sent me the thick ones, which are peeling very easily. You can't clip them, and they have huge dog ears, and they're very difficult to get out of the sprue. and they're not ideal. The paper tears really easily because the cuts are not all the way through properly, because I think because of the thickness of the counters. And then Mo was telling me, "Oh, well, you just need to get the thin counters." I said, "Well, what thin counters are you talking about?" "Oh, well, there's multiples, there's different or better sets. You got to get those." And I was just like, "I'm not going to ask the guy a third time, right, for another set of counters. That's just stupid." And that's when it gets expensive for the publishers, when idiots like me didn't pay attention when they first opened the box up. So I'm more than happy with what I got. Well, I'm not more than happy. I'm reconciled to what I have, and I will play the game as it is. It doesn't look pretty on my map, on the map, but it is what it is. And I'm not a big fan of the map art in that particular game either. It's very muted. When we're talking about player experience, when you put the counters down on the map for the Korean War, and you put the look at the map colors and the counter colors, it doesn't it doesn't it doesn't do anything for me, I guess, is probably the thing that I would say there. But nevertheless, uh, I have massively enjoyed the gameplay. I just finished the China intervention scenario last night and had a blast with it. The Marines escaped from the Chosin reservoir and helped prevent the overrun of the two ports that were key VP locations. So it was a super fun scenario. Let's see. And Todd is talking about good game, good experiences. Yeah, look, and Henry, you're absolutely right. Compass has great customer service, and they should, right? They have to charge a premium for the games because of the publishing, all the printing is done in the US, and that's expensive. And they do pretty small print runs as well. So I think they're taking the right approach by taking care of their customers that way. I think that's pretty cool. That's funny. Yeah, if she calls another time, I'm probably going to have to go or I won't go, but I'll need to deal with it because 3 calls means it's an emergency. Yeah, and this is true, right? Right. If we're going to drop $100 on a game, come on, guys, right? Let's get it right, and if it's not right, fix it. And that's all. That's all it boils down to. Which is why I think the little storm in a teacup with Phalanx was interesting because the chap that posted the video, and I forget his name, and I apologize. He's a Polish gentleman, I think. The chap that posted the video and just shared his comments and opinions, he got a lot of shit talking from Phalanx and from Haro himself, I think. And once people started saying, "Hey, look, dude, stop being a dick," he actually went back and deleted all his uh, sort of snarky comments, and then they've now issued. Not, I won't say it's an apology, but they've issued a statement saying they're going to fix everything for everybody. So I think that's good, right? That's what you should do. I would be a terrible publisher because I would make something and I would probably get offended that you thought my baby was ugly, and then I would tell you to go piss off because it is what it is. So you won't ever see me publishing games. And I certainly don't want to do 2 years or 3 years of customer support and answering questions. So there's another thing, right? So, and this is off the topic of quality, but lately I have been seeing, and maybe I did this too when I first came back to the hobby. I don't even know how to say this the right way without being a dick. But I've seen a lot of questions on Board Game Geek and in Facebook and all that sort of stuff that are like so glaringly obvious that even from not having played a game for several years, I know that the answer is duh, of course it's that way, or no, that's not how it works. Here's the rule reference type of thing. Or the questions are so OCD that like, people are spinning themselves up around the axle on stuff that I'm wondering, it's almost got me thinking, well, maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe I need to be more like analytical about my rules reading. But I think you've all seen me play. I know when you can tell when you're making a mistake because it feels, it goes into that weird kind of land where you're playing the game and you're going, hang on a second, that's not right. Like I was doing the OCS game, that little the third winter, and and when I rolled Thor 4 times and the game was over, I was thinking, this really doesn't seem right. And so you stop and you go ask a question, and it was totally me, right? I just read the rule wrong, right? But what's up with people? Like, am I is that too judgy? Am I going to hurt people's feelings by telling them to pull their hair out of their ass and go read the fucking rule book? I don't know. I'm thinking sometimes we've become so attached to this internet and a device, I don't even know where my phone is, but grabbing that phone going, oh, how do I do this? What is this? It's dude. And it's usually dudes. Stop, take a breath, reread the rule, fold the rule book up, put it aside, go get a cup of coffee or a glass of water, go do something different, and come back and then look at the rule again. And I'm 9 times out of 10, what I found is that I will go, oh, I get it. And by the way, that means this for this other mechanic, and it's all interrelated, and there's a reference over here and an example there, and you can work it out. Excuse me. I made a fabulous omelet this morning. Oh my gosh, it was so good. I put it in the broiler to finish it off, and I got distracted with pieces, and I forgot. I pulled it open, I pulled it out, and it was kind of really well done with the cheese on top. So it really became more of a frittata than an omelet. But damn, it was fine because the cheese was all kind of burnt on top. It's great. So I have a little bit of reflux, whatever the hell it is you call it. All right, let's see what I am crapping on, aren't I? Let's see what else we got here. How did we get to 32 minutes? Let's support the good, not dissipate the spend across the inferior quality. Yeah. Here's an interesting comment. Hi, Chris. I don't know you, haven't seen you before, but good to have you here. War and Peace from One Small Step. I backed the 5th edition. Show that they was the 16 transcripts. Yeah, some of the timing of things and the way things are managed are not good, and that's where they should have said, hey, if you back the 5th edition, we'll send you an update kit, right, and take care of you. That would probably be a good idea. I know this is a touchy topic, and I have not seen anyone come up back to me here and say, oh, well, here's how I handle things, or here's what my expectations are. So what are your expectations for a game, for the quality of the counters? Let's just start with counters. What are your expectations of the quality of the counters when you purchase a magazine game and or a board game? And I'll give you one example. Tiny Battles Publishing, when they first started making their games, those counters were thinner. No, I can't say that. I'll get in trouble. They were very thin, and they tore, and they were not fun. And the print-on-demand experience was bad, but they picked the quality up significantly over time and worked out how to do their print-on-demand and make that a viable publishing opportunity. That doesn't necessarily mean that they were awesome games, or all of them were awesome games. Some of them were quite good, like the Donetsk airport game. That was great, but it really needed a nicer map, thicker paper, better quality, larger map, and better quality counters. But that's a great little game. So there's a quality issue. What are your expectations, folks? Oh, here's a Stig. Stig's going for it. Well, John, that's a good point, right? Both of those games. Well, I don't know if Korean War is a redevelopment. I think it's a cleanup for a start. Uh, so I can't comment on that, but I do know that War and Peace is a redevelopment of the game. So just similarly, like with NATO is a completely separate game. It's a new game with the same name, but designed in the theme to honor the original. Air and Armor that's coming out is also it's an update and a more accurate map, better quality OB, better rules, more enhanced rules, more clarity around the rules, particularly around the combat rules, stuff like that. So those types of things is what these reissues are doing. I do think there's a little bit of a cashing in going on with these deluxe editions, and particularly when we have issues, right? Like the Compass has bounced around a little bit when it comes to these reissues have sometimes they're awesome and sometimes they're not, and sometimes the enhancements to the game don't necessarily make it that much better or better at all. But GMT's has the same issues as well. So I feel like I'm kind of ragging on Compass. It's not that at all. I've been buying more Compass games because they're one of the few companies that's actually, well, I shouldn't say one of the few companies. They're one of the few major publishers that are actually making war games now. You look at GMT. Who are the two main war game designers there? Simnich and Mitch Land. Who else? Who else is making war games over there? The Berg series has kind of died. They're just doing reprints there. There's the Hull games. There's the Fields of Fire system. That's Ben Hull, right? So that's three designers. All the others are basically doing Euros or coin systems, and you can call them war games or not, depending on your viewpoint. But they're really focused on Euros, and if that finances 2 or 3 good systems a year, or 2 or 3 good war games a year, then I guess I'm happy with that. But let's see. Well, yeah, I think they do a lot of the time, Stig. What are you saying here? The publisher should eat the cost to original purchases. I don't know what you're referring to. Oh, this nonsense. Reissues that change the original components should be paid for by players, but who want them? Oh, yeah. Well, there's a fuck deluxe. Decision games. That's just a cluster. I wouldn't even touch. I wouldn't. I'm going to go back to that game and try and work it out, but I don't believe that it's a very good game. And I'm playing the old SBI game right now, and I don't think that's coming back to it. I don't know that it's that great a game. I think I have a lot of nostalgia bias as to how good that was. It's interesting, but it's just a pain in the ass to play at the moment. I'm playing with my buddy. Here we go. Not to change the topic. Someone wants to change the topic. Steve Jones. The subject you are still going to have, John. Oh, yes, Steve, I am. And I just got carried away with work and travel and gaming, and he will be on at some point in the near future. One of the things that I hadn't agreed with him was what we were going to talk about. And I'm more interested in talking to him about a new design than one of his older designs. I don't think it does very much for him to talk about an old design. It's not, unless he has a whole bunch of stock, or whoever the publisher is has a bunch of stock. The point of the designer deep dives is to make people aware of new designs, make people aware of the designer's intent and their approach to designing the war games, and then just have it. It's a general casual conversation, but we try and dig into why did you choose that font? What did you do with the map design? How did you come to the conclusions about the mechanics and what worked, and how did you play test it, and how long was it in development, and where did the idea come from originally, and all that sort of stuff, right? So we want to really, really dig in on. That's why I call it design deep dive. So doing an old game doesn't super excite me terribly much. But so we just need to work out a title that we want to cover with him. So there's that. Oh, Michael DePaul. I've seen you on Facebook. Good to see you. I didn't know you were in Ohio. That's welcome. I need some water. It's super arid up here, and staying hydrated is difficult when you have a drinking problem. So let's see. And as I've said before, there's plenty of money in publishing, but I don't know how we go about doing those particular things that Stigler's talking about. Let's see. Yeah, oh, totally. The publisher's on the hook for that, and he needs to go back to the manufacturer and he needs to have his contract with the manufacturer. Look, if I did the QA on the pre-production run copy, and I gave it a thumbs up, and then you send me the post-production copy, and it sucks, and it's a problem, and you've printed 1,000 of them, that's on you, bro. It's on the manufacturer. It's not on the publisher to pay to have it reprinted. There's particularly with technology now, there's no reason or need for us to fly to China to go and inspect a production run. They can do a live stream call with you and show you the counters, right? And as long as they're showing you all of the counters or enough of the counters for a sample to make sure that it's accurate, we shouldn't have these issues with offset counters. I believe with today's technology and the printing technology, it shouldn't happen. I understand that it does. And when it does, it needs to be redone and fixed by the manufacturer. And the publisher needs to make sure that they hold their manufacturer accountable. And that's why they need game developers and quality assurance and a process and a methodology to make all that shit happen. That's how we did in the software industry, right? We had super stringent, probably tougher QA processes than we did development processes. Because who can tell a developer what to do? Okay, anyway. Yeah, map paper is important, right? To certainly agree to that. And this is the other issue, right? Some of these shiny maps, and GMT's been doing a lot of them lately, that it's almost like it's like a jet print, like the old HB ink jet print. It's like ink jetted on, and so it's a layer of paint almost on the map versus ink that's absorbed by the paper. So it's a porosity issue. To quote a phrase from our friends who are trying to redo Europa, right? Total War. Porosity of the paper is an issue. All right, let's see what else we got going on here. Yeah, well, look, paper costs have gone up, so I understand that's an issue, but it's not significant, and it's not a long-term problem either. All these production cost things are going to settle down in the next 4 to 6 months, or by the end of that's the end of the year anyway, right? So we're into July, but I don't understand why we can't have good, thick, quality paper and just do that printing with the ink that is absorbed by the paper, and stop giving this stuff that flakes off. I'm almost going to start asking publishers and game designers what type of maps they're going to have, because I hate unfolding a brand new game and then looking at it and then already seeing the creases and the white lines on the creases where the maps are. Talk about taking you out of the immersion and the player experience. It's just disappointing, right? That game's not going to play well over 20 years. If assuming I'm not going to be playing games in 20 years, I'll be dead. But if you want to resell it, number one, there's your issue. And then number two, if you are going to play it a lot, if you're in your 30s or 40s and you find a game you love, maps are just going to wear out because they chip and flake and it's a pain in the ass. Yes, there you go. Let alone being able to read the details on the maps as needed. What did I just say? I said something. There you go, Kev. There's the crux of the matter. The publisher needs to tug socks with the manufacturer. Okay, wash hands. I'm not sure what he's talking about. Stig, you were just an odd chap today. Yes. See, look, I don't know. I recall. I was doing a little playthrough of a Revolutions game, and I guess it was one that they first started, right? And I guess I I forget what the game was. Some cool little game set in was it World War One or World War Two? I don't know what it was. It was in East Africa somewhere. It was Italians versus somebody, and so these counters have been done in this. They covered the counters in this sort of shiny, glossy, sticky stuff, and so you got the counters, and as you're breaking them out, right, the counters are kind of sticky on the sides, and so as you're playing and picking up the counters and putting them down and moving, they're sticking to your fingers, and then they're flying off and going somewhere. I recall saying that I would imagine these two publishers sitting there having a beer or a whiskey or whatever, going, "Yo, Bill, what do you think? We need let's kick it up a notch. Let's do something really different." "Yeah, Bob, what do you think? What do you think we should do?" "Oh, I know. Let's put latex over the counters, and then they'll be really shiny and glossy, and they'll be protected, and it's going to be awesome." Dude, that's so cool. We should do that. It was a train wreck. I think I threw that game out. I don't even think I sold it. It's just terrible. Counters sticking to my finger, like counters stuck to my fingers as I'm trying to move pieces around. It's really goofy. All right, enough of that. So any map that is folded in two directions at 90 degrees will crack. That is not true. Semi-matte at worst. I hate shiny. Cough. MMP. Cough. The game is. Yeah, they've been doing a lot of the shiny maps lately too. It must be cheaper. It's the only thing I can think of, because Compass has gone back to it, because they had moved off of the shiny maps when they did Ardennes, and there was a handful of us that just were like, "What the hell?" And then they moved to non-shiny maps, like the African campaign was beautifully done. Oh gosh. And so I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. It's got to be a cost thing. It's the only thing I can think of that's done that way. I'm just looking here. What else you guys got in here? Yeah, Chris. Well, that game had more than share of issues, and now that whole system has its issues. They're still trying to redevelop most of it for GMT's working with what's his name to get it right. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, look, there may be a grain issue, maybe a grain direction. That's not my point. The point is that the type of printing that's done is going to drive the level of cracking and wear in a game, on a map, and the current trend with this high gloss shiny ink process, it cracks faster and sooner, It cracks faster, and it wears quicker than the non-shiny or matte maps that are out there or have been printed in the past. And you can absolutely see the difference. You will see, of course, creases, but you will not see paint or ink flaking off with off the matte maps. Is my point. And shiny rules. Yeah, who loves those shiny rules? Nothing like having a nice shiny rule book. So you're sitting there reading, and then the light's bouncing off in your eyes, and next thing you know, you're sound asleep. So who knew that, right? Stigler, you're shiny, bro. You are shiny, and we love your shininess. So there it is. Oh, Hathwell's here. How you doing, man? Yeah, the coating cracks and peels the print layer. That is correct. Yeah. Anyway, so look, I didn't mean for this to go on for an hour. I was really just jumping on to chat with you guys. I think I'm not sure. I would love to know from the publishers why everyone is moving towards, or has moved towards, these glossy maps and high gloss rule books. I noticed that here's something interesting. The Third Winter has the regular but color rulebook 4.3 for OCS is matte. The module rules are high gloss. Go figure. Full color as well. Now that makes me think. I wonder if Third Winter series rules are color. I know they're matte for sure. And then the scenario book is matte. And all the charts are beautiful and so well done and very, very useful. There's a ton of charts in that game, to both placement charts and also just informational charts, and they're extremely well done. So in the old OCS games, MMP games, you would have the movement effects for terrain effects, and then you would have terrain effects for combat, and they would be black and white, and it would just say tundra or rocky or rough or whatever, and you would then have to go look at the map and look at the tech index or symbology, and then cross correlate, right, and work out which one was which. Well, now they have this beautiful single chart with actual hexes of the actual terrain, and then the combat effect, the movement effect, and the weather impact on those two things. And it's just one chart, and it makes life so much easier and so much easier to play the game than having to flick around from one thing to another. So there you go. There's an example of higher quality, more thought put into the player experience, the PX, and allowing us to get into the game faster. And then all you need to do is just read the rules properly. If I could work on that, that'd be great. Yeah, Steve, Worthington, it just has never clicked for me. I'd love to say that I would give them a second chance, but I don't think I will. Yeah, look, it's totally a cost thing, Stiggs. That's what I'm thinking, bro. Julian, high-cost maps and rule books are likely to appeal to new and younger gamers. Yeah, maybe. But as soon as they grab their pen or their pencil and they want to make a note or a highlight or an underline in their rule book, assuming that they do that, then they're going to be sorely disappointed. Which is why, with all the high gloss rule books, I typically will just print it out and I put the rule book back in the box and ignore it. Right. Hey, Chris, you're in Santa Fe. How about that? All right. Well, I'm just up the road in Angel Fire. So it's glad you're back from Germany. That's right, Chris. I think you and I were chatting one of the last streams that I did. So, all right. Look, 52 minutes. I need to get off because it's 11:30, 12:30. So I'm sure that there's a raft of live streams about to happen. Go see Todd's going to be live this afternoon. I know that Jester and Rough Swordsman are going to be live, and I'm sure the Lock and Low guys are going to be live, and of course Tony is going to be live, and the Wardrobe will be live, and I think Jeff is going to be on as well. Jeff will be on, so everybody is going to be doing their live stream. It's the jam-packed Saturday afternoon. Go check out all these knuckleheads and give them a thumbs up and a subscribe if you haven't already. And I will look forward to all of you guys and girls, as the case may be, catching up with me in the near future. I'm probably going to go and finish off the first turn of my Russia Besieged. So all the best. Cheers.